back at it again with What If Deku's mentor was K.infinite? I know, surprising, ain't it? In the last episode, certain things happened, but in the end, it's up to you guys if you want to go back and watch it. But I will try to keep it with all the stuff. So, that's all I gotta say on that little bit. So, Zuku is walking home, practically, doing his thing, just looking around, looking in the sky, looking around him, enjoying his life, surprisingly. Because now, for him, a weight has been lifted off his shoulders, if you want to say. It's more enjoyable because he feels more confident now. He feels like he did it. Like he's gonna make it into UA. Like there's no way they're gonna say no to him, he feels like. And as he's walking around, he's just looking, and he walks by the Dagobah beach, and he sees the door of K.infinite, and he takes a moment. He thinks to himself, should I talk to him? Should I let him know what's been going on? And he takes a moment. He takes a serious moment. And he goes. He walks up to the door because he looks at it for one more time, and he opens it. Walks inside the big hall area, and he keeps walking for a while, walking around the building, seeing all its technological stuff that he saw in the beginning, seeing how certain things have changed a little bit, and he didn't even notice it in the first part. He just now noticed it now, and he sees K.infinite sitting there, just sitting at his holographic table. And before he was about to talk to him, he overhears a conversation. And he hears from K.infinite, are you ready, my other Ks? Oh, so you have found your Izukus. Good. Or should I really say Midoriya's? What would be the word for more of him? I don't know. It doesn't matter. But anyway, I wonder, how are you all doing or handling your Midoriyas? Oh, so you started a zombie apocalypse. You made him into a villain. You're telling me you did practically you just straight up made a Clone Wars with him? That's very impressive, to be honest, I'm not gonna lie. But besides that, and so you're telling me you killed him, then you turned him into a dinosaur, then somehow sent him back in time? Or am I getting that wrong? It doesn't matter. But anyway, all of you will be used very soon for me, for my purposes, alright? But besides that, I'm just saying, this kid brings a lot to me. He reminds me of me in a way. Someone who cares about others way more than himself, if you get what I mean. But anyway, hopefully our unique perspective on things could help them. If my brother could see me now, right? One of the kids say, yeah. I wonder how he would think to that, to be honest. One of us, when we met him, he straight up thought one of us were just a robot. How weird. I know, K.infinite says. I know, it's a little weird when they assume that some of you Ks are literally machines, when in reality, you have souls. But it doesn't matter in the end, doesn't it? It does. In the end, you all serve me, and you know that to be true. But, anyway, we need to get back on track. How much longer until these other Midoriyas are ready? Oh, this long. I did not know that. After K.infinite says all that, Midoriya slowly sneaks out of the room, and he sits somewhere, holding his hands on the side of his face. Sitting there and in thought, he is questioning if K.infinite is secretly using Midoriya for something, using him for something. And He's confused what he means by alternate hymns, alternate Midoriyas. He doesn't know too much about the multiverse. All he knows is the K's exist, who are K.infinite, but just not the same in some regards. And he's sitting there and thinking, he's like, am I being used for something evil? Or what am I being used for? That's what he thinks, because he doesn't know what he's being used for. But besides that, that's when K.infinite walks out to the room and turns his head and sees Midoriya, and he says, "Oh, Midoriya, I didn't know you were here. I wonder, do you want some training? Do you need help, my boy?" And Izuku says, it's nice of you, K.infinite, but not now, okay? I was just gonna tell you that I just did the good thing in the entrance exam, because I know you stopped watching after a bit. And K.infinite says, "Oh, you did? Do you want to tell me?" Midoriya looks at him and says, "Yes, I saved a girl with brown hair and brown eyes and pink rosy cheeks. And I saved her from the 0-pointer in the exam." K.infinite looks at him and says, "Oh, you did? Well, that's good to hear. I see your true heroic self is still there, and I enjoy that about you. I really do." Now, after K.infinite says that, Izuku doesn't fully trust K.infinite right now, but he's more cautious, He's more cautious about it. And he looks at K.infinite and says, "Yeah, I'm glad you're happy about that, but I came here to say hi and all that." And K.infinite turns around and says, "Oh, okay. Well, that's good to know. But anyway, kid, I'm just saying right now, always remember, you can always use your connection of us to always call me, okay?" And Izuku nods his head, agrees, but he says, "So K.infinite, are you always alone here?" K.infinite smiles and says, "Yes, I'm always alone." Izuku can tell by the tone of voice that it was obviously a lie. K.infinite's lying to him for some weird reason, and Izuku doesn't know why. But he will accept it for now because he does not want to kind of argue against K.infinite with this, since K.infinite helped him. But besides that, Izuku says, "Alright, well, I'm gonna go." And then he turns around, is about to walk away, and K.infinite puts his hand on Izuku's shoulder and says, "Oh yeah, by the way, gotta tell you one more thing, kid. One day, maybe I'll go with you to your house and meet your mother. I bet she may have questions for me, And Izuku's like, "Oh, okay," putting up a smile, but still lightly not fully trusting K.infinite for just the way he's talking to him. He feels like K.infinite's trying to hide something, since Izuku brought up that little point. So, anyway, Izuku turns around and actually finally leaves. And he leaves, goes through the door, and starts walking home. He gets home, he opens the door, and his mother looks at him and walks over and says, "My boy, are you okay? You look nervous. You look like you just heard something really, really, really important to you." Midoriya looks at her and says, "I'm fine. There's nothing to worry about." And Inko can tell that something is bothering her son, but she's not going to push it any further. So Izuku looks at her and says, "I'm just going to go to my room." She says, "Okay, dinner will be ready." Then Izuku walks to his room, goes there, goes through his door, locks it, and he lays down on the bed, and he sits there, thinking to himself. Thinking. After a little bit, he gets up and goes back, and you can tell dinner's ready. He eats, obviously, and he looks at his mother and tells her something's very off. Something that I'm just gonna tell you right now, okay, Mom, is the fact being that K.infinite is hiding something from me. Inko's like, what do you mean, my son? And he says, well, it's like he's trying to hide something from me. Like, he was talking to someone, but when I asked him if he was all alone where he is, he told me no. He has no one there. Like, he is completely alone. But then I'm trying to figure out who he's talking to. Inko looks at him and says, well, first of all, I think you should not get into his business, because I feel like K.infinite was probably talking to someone important, maybe. That's my guess, my son, okay? And I'm just saying, maybe it was someone through communication or something. And Izuku doesn't feel satisfied with that answer, but he accepts it, and he finishes his meal. Both of them do. And after that, Izuku goes back to his room, lays down, and drifts off to sleep. The very next morning, he gets something through the mail. His UA acceptance letter. And Inko rushes to his room and hands it to him, and Izuku's excited as well. And he brings his mom into the room so she can watch. And they both open up the letter together, and Izuku looks in there, doesn't find a note for some weird reason, but a little device falls down, and it shoots up a hologram, and the symbol of peace, All Might, is there. And he says, I am here. And All Might, the hologram, says that Izuku Midoriya, you've been accepted into UA, and you are going to be put in class 1A. And Izuku's like, oh, I did it. I actually did it. And he sounds excited. So excited about it. And his mother is like, oh my goodness, my baby boy did it. And gives her son a hug. A very tight hug. And they just hug it out for a while. But Izuku looks at the hologram and is questioning, why is All Might at UA? And All Might answers the question. Well, since it's a recording. And he says, well, I've been deciding to teach the next generation of the heroes, young Izuku Midoriya, and you might have more questions, but remember, I can't actually hear you because this is a hologram. And Izuku chuckles about this because he finds it funny that All Might said that. But he remembers K.infinite for a moment. He realizes that without K.infinite, he wouldn't be able to get to this point by himself at all. But he feels like he needs to go to K.infinite and thank him personally. So he stands up, even though his mother's hugging him, and he looks to his mother and says, I gotta go real quick. I gotta go thank somebody. And she looks at him and says, so you gotta go thank K.infinite? And he looks at her and says, yes, I have to go thank him. He helped me. He helped me get to this far. Without him, I wouldn't have never gotten here. And she smiles at him and says, go, my boy. Go thank him. I'm always here, though, if you ever need me. And Izuku does so. He gets up, runs out of his room. He runs for a while and does get tired at some point. And he finally gets to the Dagaba Beach, and he runs to K.infinite's door, opens it, and goes inside, running through the halls and trying to find K.infinite. Because he's trying to find him through their connection, looking around every room, because it's like dozens and dozens and dozens of rooms looking for him. And he finally finds him, sitting there, just drinking some hot chocolate next to a nice warm fire. Izuku's kind of confused about it, but he doesn't put it no mind. And he hugs K.infinite, catching K.infinite off guard. K.infinite looks at him and says, what the heck? Izuku, what are you doing? And Izuku says, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. And K.infinite looks at him and says, what did I do? And Izuku says, thank you for everything, because I just got into UA. K.infinite looks at him, hugs him back and says, oh, no problem, my boy. But next time Try not to hug me when I have a drink. You're lucky that I have multiple arms, but whatever. Doesn't matter. This is happy time. But anyway, next time, why don't we celebrate by getting something to eat or hanging out or something? Or why not I go home with you today and, well, introduce myself to your mother, since me and her haven't met yet. Because, again, I want to meet my friends. Well, if I should really say, should I? I don't know. Whatever. But, Izuku, it's up to you in the end. Izuku sits down for a minute and just thinks about it. And he says, yes, I want you to meet my mother. Because without you and without you helping her out by making me get out of my depression in a way, I would have still been in that mindset, still think I could do nothing. And I'm pretty sure she's very thankful of you. Because without you, I wouldn't be who I am now, you know? After Izuku says that, they both hug it out for a while, just a good old while, and K.infinite finally pats Izuku on the back and says, alright, let's get up, kid. And Izuku gets up as well. And they both leave the little dimension where the door is. And for once, as Izuku is guiding K.infinite, because K.infinite doesn't really know the city too well, he looks around and says, whoa, this place has changed over the years. Almost got very advanced to where I was. Izuku looks at him and says, where you were? K.infinite looks at him and says, never mind, that's not important right now. And Izuku is still questioning K.infinite, but they continue walking, and they finally get to the front door of Midoriya's home. And K.infinite says, Izuku, if you want, I can open the door, or you can open the door and introduce me first. Again, it's up to you, kid. And Midoriya looks at him and says, I'll do it, because I gotta introduce you. It'll be in a respectful way, you know? And K.infinite says, fair enough. It's always up to you in the end, kid. I'm just the one who helped you. Then Midoriya opens the door, and he walks in first. And before he even lets K.infinite walk in, he says, Mother. Inko comes around the corner and he says, yeah, Izuku? Why are you still in the front door? And Izuku says, I have to introduce you to K.infinite. And Midoriya opens the door. K.infinite walks in and says, Inko Midoriya. It's been a while since I've seen you. And Inko looks at K.infinite and says, oh, it's you, K.infinite. Interesting. I'm surprised you followed my son for once to come meet me. I thought you would not do that, to be honest. Like how my grandfather said that you wouldn't bother any of his, well, family. That includes us. K.infinite looks at her and says, I understand that. But this time I had to intervene because, for the fact being, your boy here, Izuku Midoriya, wanted to be a hero, and I could respect that. He reminds me so much of your grandpa, or grandfather, or however we call them nowadays. It gets boring after this point, for me at least. Inko looks at him and says, I can kind of agree to that. But I know for a fact being you have lived for a very long time. And so, my real question is, why give my son any powers from you? K.infinite says, I can answer more of that after we get out of this doorway. She lets him walk in, and K.infinite sits at the dining table. Midoriya is about to walk over, but his mother puts her hand on his shoulder and says, Izuku, go to your room, please. Me and K.infinite have to talk personally for a bit. And whatever he promised you, we can do afterwards, okay? And she smiles at Izuku. Izuku agrees and goes to his room. POV Izuku. He has his door open, You can see them talking, but you can't hear what they're saying to each other. It's like they're talking on their own about something. He thinks in his head is, what are they talking about? What is so intriguing that they can't share it with me? Why am I starting to talk like K.infinite, huh? I think he has a really heavy influence on myself, huh? Right, me? Yeah, I can agree with that. But he tries to listen in a little bit more, and he can make out saying, did you tell my son what your friends and my grandfather have done throughout a long time, throughout history in a way? K.infinite looks at her and says, no, I have never told him. And that's when they both finish talking, and Inko says, hey, Izuku, you can come back out now. And Izuku gets out of his room and walks over again. Then K.infinite says, oh, you're right. Now all three of us can hang out. Inko is like, wait, what? And K.infinite lifts her up by the arm, or lifts her up like a little kid, basically, and says to her, yeah, why not? Because, again, it's better yet for me to hang out with my friends, extended family, than me trying to find him from all these years, Because that will take a very, very, very long time, if you get what I mean. And Midoriya and Inko says, yeah, I get that. Or, yeah, I understand. But, in the end, they decide, and they have a little talk, and they decide where they want to go. And where they go is an arcade. And Midoriya, Inko, and K.infinite walk over there. And K.infinite is still looking around. He's still surprised. And he asks them several questions about certain things. He says, hey, Izuku, what's that thing right there? And pointing at a weird-looking claw machine. And K.infinite is asking him, because he wants to know what it is. And Midoriya says, oh, that's a claw machine. And K.infinite says, it is? It looks very strange. Something I'm not really used to, but maybe if you tell me how it works, or show me how it functions, then I could figure it out. And Midoriya says, yeah, but maybe we could do that another time. And K.infinite's like, yeah, fair enough. Inko says, hey, have you ever tried this? Ramen? And K.infinite says, yeah, I had, but I have tried it in America, so I don't really know how it is in Japan. So, in the end, it's up to you if you want to let me try that. And so, she's like, yeah, let's do it. K.infinite agrees, and Midoriya as well. And they go to the ramen shop, basically. They look around on the menu, they order several plates of ramen for each person. How many? I will let you have that fun little question for yourselves. But, besides that, in the end, Inko shows him more and more and more. K.infinite getting more and more interested. But then K.infinite says, this reminds me of Gentleman, or Gentle, or Lizard, or whatever he goes by now. But it reminds me of him, because for the fact being that he was always invested in culture, Inko and Midoriya look at him and says, really? One of your friends? One of our, grandfather's friends as well, was invested in culture? K.infinite says, yeah, he really was. Not only that, he was also invested in, history and melee combat for some weird reason. He was, really invested in melee combat. Believe me, he asked me to help him out and make certain weapons. Just to help him. I genuinely don't know why he was so invested in melee combat. I kind of understand. For the fact being, well, blood for the blood god, if you get that reference. And Midoriya looks at him, and Inko looks at him and says, we don't know where that's from, if you were doing a reference. K.infinite says, then never mind. It's an old franchise anyway. It's probably doesn't even exist now anyway. Midoriya and Izuku, Inko and Izuku look at each other and say, well, that was weird. And they look back at him and say, okay. Inko says, so how are you enjoying the ramen and all that? K.infinite looks at her and says, yeah, I like it. It's pretty good. I don't really like the broth with it, though, because it tasted kind of weird, I'm not going to lie. But besides that, it's pretty good. Like, dang, I'm not going to lie. You guys have really evolved over the times. Midoriya speaks up and says, well, that's good to hear. But besides that, I do got a question for you. K.infinite says, go ahead, shoot your question. I bet it's something about heroes, or asking me if I know any heroes personally. If I can guess, Midoriya. But Midoriya hits him with a question that he didn't expect. A question that makes K.infinite go like, wait, what? How do you know that? And it's this, Midoriya. I wonder, how do you know someone called Nanashimura? K.infinite, how do you know that? How do you know I know someone named that? Izuku, well, I sort of saw your memories when I slept last night. It was like a memory, in a way. Like your memories. I don't know how that happened, but it did. I saw it. But K.infinite says, I don't know how to respond to this, but kid, I knew her because, again, I lived for a very long time, and I knew her because me and her were good friends. Not only that, there was certain things people didn't know back in the time, but I don't want to reflect on the past, okay, kid? I'll tell you in another day or another time, but not now, please. Midoriya says, fine, but make sure you tell me one day, okay? I'm very curious who she is, because it feels like you cared about her a lot, for some weird reason, K.infinite. And K.infinite says, well, kid, when you're older, you will understand why you care about people, even the people who are close to you. Much more than your mother, I mean. Like, I'm talking about people who are your friends, or people who are people that you wouldn't expect that you care a lot about. That's all I'm saying. And Inko says, okay, let's change the topic. I feel like we hit a really, really sore topic for K.infinite. Izuku and K.infinite both agree to this, and they change the topic. We skip a little because they have like a good conversation, a good meal, and they go to the arcade. And when they're there, they just walk around a bit, looking around for certain games, and K.infinite finds an old game. He looks at it and says, why does this arcade machine doesn't work? And the owner was walking by and he says, well, it's because it's busted. No one could get it to work in years. K.infinite says, let me have a try. The owner snarks a little bit and says, have your best shot, I guess. K.infinite walks over, touches it, and the machine turns on like it just freshly got new life into it. Midoriya was right next to him at the time and says, whoa, you got it to work? And the owner's like, wait, what? K.infinite's like, well, that wasn't that hard. The owner's like, how did you get it to work? And K.infinite says, it's none of your business. And besides, a deal's a deal here, because I got it to work. But I'm also going to ask you, is it alright if I take this old machine off your hands? K.infinite smiles underneath his helmet towards the owner, and the owner says, you know what, fine, keep that worthless hunk of junk. I don't really care for it, anyway. It doesn't even make too much money anymore. And only did it in the past, anyway. K.infinite looks at the machine and puts it in a pocket dimension. Izuku is astonished by this, and K.infinite leans close to Midoriya and says, well, Midoriya, I'm just going to tell you straight up, one day you will have the ability to do this, but I won't tell you how, it's just how it is, okay? And after that, we time skip a a little bit more back to the Midoriya household, where Inko and Izuku wave off K.infinite, who's going home. And Inko Midoriya says that was a nice time with him. Midoriya says. Inko says, yeah, I know, my son. Anyway, you should get some rest because you got your first day at UA. And Midoriya is happy about this, and so he goes to his room, lays down, and falls asleep. But as he does so, looking through more of K.infinite's memories, and he finds a memory of K.infinite in a war zone, looking around, just like in battle, destruction. There's a lot of destroyed things. Midoriya is surprised. Most of this stuff looks like it's highly advanced from their age. It looks like it's past their age at all. It looks like it's not even from this world in a way. But he sees K.infinite's comrades, certain people, and then after a while, Midoriya wakes up in the next morning in a sweat, wondering what that war was about. Curious and very intrigued, but regardless, he has to drop it for now. So he gets up and gets ready to go to UA, and since he also has the uniform, he puts it on for the very first time, and he admires it. He's like, whoa, this feels very nice, surprisingly. I thought it would be, well, not great like my old middle school uniform. Huh. But, oh well. He says all that to himself, out loud. But, besides that, he goes to the kitchen and gets himself some food. But he leaves a note on the table for his mother. He eats quickly, washes his dishes, and he heads off to UA. He goes, gets on the train, looks around, and he still cannot let go of that thought. That thought of K.infinite's battle right there, that war he was fighting. It's constantly popping up in his head, It's he can't let it go for some weird reason. Midoriya can't let it go. But he has to, for now. Maybe he can ask K.infinite about it, or, ask him, why were you fighting in a war, But besides that, he finally gets to UA, and goes and finds Class 1A. He tries to find the classroom, but then he bumps into a girl with blue hair and a very bubbly personality in a way. She turns around and says, "Oh, are you okay?" Not caring that the person bumped into her. Midoriya's like, "Yes, I'm fine. I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have bumped into you. I'm Izuku Midoriya." And the girl says, "I'm Nejire Hado." And he talks to her as they walk around for a bit. And he says, "Do you know where Class 1A is?" She says, "Yeah, it's so-and-so over there." And Midoriya says, "Thank you," and says, "Next time I will pay you back for your kindness and understanding." She just smiles at him, and Midoriya practically speeds walks away. And he gets to a certain classroom, Class 1A. He goes inside and he sees, well, a unique situation going on, where Bakugo has his legs over his table, while a blue-haired boy is trying to reprimand Bakugo. Midoriya's looking at this, and until the boy turns around and says, "Oh, my name is Tenya Ida. I am so sorry, but this ruffian is really not listening." And Midoriya says, "Oh, it's fine. I know him. And also, I'm Izuku Midoriya." Almost forgot to say that. But that boy is Bakugo Katsuki. He's not going to really listen to you, man. There's no point of doing it. He's just going to ignore you. And Ida says, "That's kind of you to tell me that, but I'm still going to try, because no point of me giving up. After Midoriya hears that from Ida, he hears someone from behind saying, "Oh, it's you! The person who saved me from the entrance exam." Turns around and sees Ochako again. And he says, "Oh, it's you as well. I see your leg feeling fine." And she says, "Yeah, recovery girl healed me up very well afterwards." And he says, "Yeah, well, I'm glad for that. And you did a really good job too. You saved me when I almost fell because I could have hurt myself really badly on that day." And she says, "Well, don't mention it. It's what a hero should have always do. But besides that, anyway, I'm curious, what is your quirk?" And Midoriya is about to answer, but then he doesn't say anything. He just goes to his desk and says, "Hey, you might want to sit down too, by the way," as he's walking away. And he also says, "It's also because I'm not trying to be rude, but it's also because our teacher is here." And she understands, but she's like, "Who's our teacher, though?" And Midoriya just points behind her, and Mr. Aizawa in his sleeping bag looking like a caterpillar. And she's like, "Oh, that's our teacher." And Mr. Aizawa gets out and says, "Finally, someone noticed that I was here. What's your name, kid?" And Zuko says, "I'm Midoriya." And Aizawa says, "Oh, Midoriya. Well, good job for noticing me and getting silent when necessary. But anyway, for the rest of you, this won't do. We have a short amount of time to get you all ready to be heroes already. So, please, next time, try to stay focused. And also, either way, we need to get you ready for certain things anyway. But besides that," he pulls out some tracksuits. He says, "Put these on. Because either way, I am going to take you to a physical exam, and we're going to skip orientation. Before anything, the class goes, 'Wait, what? Why are you going to skip orientation?' You know, blah, 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 like they usually say. And that's where I'm going to have to leave it off for you ladies and gentlemen. Because for the fact being that it's just how it is, you know? Just have to leave it off there because reasons. But don't worry, the second part will be out very soon. I will try not to make it waste your time. That's all I have to say. And also make sure you leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below, whatever, I guess.